Wealthy Gardener, a journey of cultivating prosperity in soul and mind. Some books about money focus only on numbers, spreadsheets, and formulas for getting rich. But then there are books that rise above financial mechanics to touch the deeper dimensions of life, where we wrestle with the timeless question: what does it mean to live a prosperous life? The Wealthy Gardener by John Soforic belongs to this second kind. It is not merely a how-to-get-rich manual, but a philosophical dialogue disguised as a parable of a father, a garden, and the seeds of prosperity. John Soforic, a successful entrepreneur and a thoughtful father, wrote this work as a spiritual legacy for his son. Rather than lecturing about economics in dry terms, he chose the form of allegory, casting the figure of a wealthy gardener at the center of the story. This gardener does more than plant seeds in the soil. He plants lessons about personal responsibility, the power of discipline, the dignity of labor, the pursuit of knowledge, and ultimately the meaning of freedom. What makes this book remarkable is not wealth hacks or shortcuts, but its penetrating insight into the relationship between money and the growth of character. Soforic shows us that wealth is not an endpoint, but the natural outcome of a life lived with direction, discipline, and purpose. Money, in this view, is only the visible surface of the iceberg. Beneath it lie willpower, habits, and faith in the future. From a psychological and philosophical perspective, The Wealthy Gardener is a lesson in existential freedom. Human beings, like gardeners, always have the power to choose what seeds to sow. The small daily choices, repeated consistently, will determine the harvest of a lifetime. And just like in real life, laziness, procrastination, or surrendering to fate will yield only barren soil. The book's appeal lies in how it forces us to reflect. What seeds am I planting today? Is my work truly meaningful, or merely a transaction of hours for dollars? Do the dollars I earn buy me freedom, or do they bind me with invisible chains? These are the deeper inheritances Soforic intended to pass down, more valuable than financial strategies alone. In essence, The Wealthy Gardener is not a book about becoming rich. It is a reminder to learn how to cultivate the garden of your own life. Money will come and go, but vision, wisdom, and the legacy you leave behind are what endure. Beginning, the vision of prosperity. There is a paradox we all witness. Most people work hard, yet only a few have true prosperity. Many spend their entire lives caught in the grind of survival, constantly worried about bills and obligations, despite decades of labor. Why is this so? From a psychological and philosophical standpoint, the answer lies here. Most people begin life without a clear vision of prosperity. They live by inertia, by the scripts handed down by society, rather than consciously planting the seeds of their own future. And in truth, the starting point of prosperity is not the money in one's hands, but the image in one's mind. Prosperity as a mental image. In modern psychology, we often hear about mental imagery, the invisible pictures in our minds that drive our behavior. An athlete envisions victory before stepping onto the track. A composer hears the melody in his head before writing a single note. In the same way, anyone who longs for financial freedom must first craft a vivid picture of prosperity in the imagination before it can become reality. Without that image, people easily fall into blind labor, working endlessly without direction. That is why so many become trapped in the cycle of earn, spend, borrow, earn again, never breaking free into abundance. They are like sailors adrift on a vast ocean with no compass. Philosophy of purpose and direction. Aristotle once declared, every action aims at some ultimate end. For him, that end was eudaimonia, the state of human flourishing or happiness. In the modern world, happiness is often intertwined with material prosperity, because wealth grants security, freedom, and opportunities to pursue higher values. The essential question then becomes, what is your vision of prosperity? For some, it is a number in a bank account. For others, it is the ability to live free from debt and the tyranny of survival. For those with a deeper philosophical lens, prosperity is the harmony of finances, character, and spirit. The point is not which definition is superior, but whether you have chosen one consciously. A clear vision is the compass of a meaningful life. Vision, the difference between survival and creation. In developmental psychology, Viktor Frankl, founder of logotherapy, observed that humans can endure almost any how if they have a why. That why is vision. It separates those who merely survive from those who dare to create a life of fullness. Those without vision chase trivial aims, a small raise, a luxury item, the next weekend's pleasure. Those with a vision of prosperity think further ahead. They plant patiently, save with discipline, invest consistently, and willingly trade short-term gratification for long-term harvests. Vision as the soil of the soul. If life is a garden, then vision is the soil. Without fertile ground, seeds cannot grow. Likewise, without a clear vision, financial efforts scatter like seeds falling on rocks. You may work hard, save, and invest, but without a unifying picture, your actions remain fragmented, often misdirected. Vision integrates. It binds small daily choices, how you spend, what career you pursue, how you allocate time, into a coherent pattern. It is the organizing principle of an entire life. From desire to conviction. Many people wish to be wealthy, but few transform that wish into conviction. Conviction differs from desire in that it demands commitment and responsibility. A vague wish is like a seed left unplanted. Conviction is the seed buried deep in the soil, beginning to take root. Cognitive psychology offers the concept of the self-fulfilling prophecy. When you hold a vision strong enough, both mind and behavior unconsciously align toward it, and reality reshapes itself accordingly. This is the quiet power of vision. It is not simply an idea, but a magnetic force. Vision and the freedom to choose. Jean-Paul Sartre once claimed, "Man is condemned to be free." By this he meant that we cannot escape choice. Yet freedom, unguided by vision, becomes a burden. We choose aimlessly, try many paths, and end in confusion. When anchored in vision, however, freedom becomes strength. You know what to decline, what hardship to accept, and where to channel your energy. Those without vision feel life is dictated by society. Those with vision feel life is directed by their own hand. Vision and core values. A vision has power only when rooted in core values. Why do you want to be wealthy? To impress others, or to live authentically on your own terms? A vision founded solely on vanity will collapse under pressure. But a vision tied to deeper values, family responsibility, the desire to contribute, the pursuit of inner freedom, becomes an inexhaustible well of motivation. Vision and disciplined action. Ultimately, vision cannot be separated from discipline. Vision without action is illusion. Action without vision is blind labor. Only the marriage of the two produces prosperity. The wealthy gardener does not merely dream of harvest, he rises each day to sow, water, and weed. Likewise, the one who seeks prosperity must persist in small daily habits, saving, investing, learning, and enduring the wait. Vision is what keeps one from quitting too soon. Conclusion, beginning with an inner image. The beginning of prosperity is not in the dollars you currently possess, but in the picture of life you carry within. Without vision, you remain stuck in the cycle of work and debt. With vision, each day becomes a step toward the harvest of freedom and fulfillment. In other words, before drafting any financial plan, pause and ask, what is my image of prosperity? That answer is the true beginning of the journey, the compass that directs your efforts, and the first seed in the garden of your wealth. Personal responsibility, the cornerstone of prosperity. There is a truth as old as human civilization, yet one that modern society often resists. No one is coming to save you. Personal responsibility is not a burden. It is the very foundation of freedom and prosperity. The wealthy gardener in Soforic's parable teaches his son that before a seed can grow, the soil must be tended. Likewise, before wealth can be cultivated, the individual must accept full ownership of his or her life. This chapter is not about money at all. It is about character, psychology, and the philosophy of being human in a world where excuses are easy, but growth demands responsibility. The psychology of blaming and avoiding. One of the most persistent human tendencies is to blame external conditions, the economy, the government, one's parents, or sheer bad luck. From a psychological perspective, this is an ego defense mechanism. It protects our self-image by projecting failure outward. Yet it also shackles us. The philosopher Epictetus, born a slave, taught that freedom begins when we distinguish between what is in our control and what is not. To dwell only on what is outside us is to enslave ourselves twice. First, by circumstance, and second, by our own refusal to act. Modern psychology echoes this truth. Individuals with an external locus of control, those who believe life is ruled by outside forces, tend to experience more anxiety, more helplessness, and less success. Those with an internal locus of control, who accept that outcomes depend on their own choices, are statistically more resilient, disciplined, and prosperous. The philosophical root of responsibility. Responsibility comes from the Latin respondere, to answer. To be responsible is to answer for one's life. Jean-Paul Sartre, though an atheist existentialist, insisted that without God to dictate our destiny, human beings are left with radical freedom and therefore radical responsibility. He wrote, "Man is nothing else but what he makes of himself." This is not a comforting thought. It is a terrifying one. If your life is unfulfilled, you are forced to face the uncomfortable reality that it is not society, nor fate, nor fortune, but your own unmade choices that keep you there. And yet, this terror is liberating. If you are the author, you can rewrite the story. Responsibility is not a sentence, it is sovereignty. Excuses. The silent thieves of prosperity. Excuses are seductive because they relieve us of effort. But they come with a hidden cost. They rob us of agency. Every excuse is a theft of energy from what could have been invested in action. Think of the countless rationalizations people make. I can't save money because my job doesn't pay enough. I can't start a business because the market is saturated. I can't learn investing because it's too complicated. Each of these statements contains a half-truth, but beneath every half-truth lies a whole lie, the refusal to assume responsibility. The wealthy gardener's lesson is blunt. While you wait for perfect conditions, others are planting seeds. When harvest comes, the field you neglected will tell its own story. Responsibility as empowerment. Paradoxically, when we finally accept responsibility, life becomes lighter, not heavier. Why? Because to accept responsibility is to reclaim power. If you caused it, you can change it. If your financial state is the result of your choices, then different choices can alter it. Psychology calls this agency, the belief in one's own capacity to influence outcomes. Agency is one of the strongest predictors of motivation and achievement. A person with agency does not see failure as defeat, but as feedback. Responsibility reframes failure as a step in the process, not a final verdict. The myth of fairness. One of the greatest illusions that paralyzes people is the expectation that life should be fair. But fairness is not guaranteed, and prosperity does not belong to those who demand it. It belongs to those who work for it. The wealthy gardener warns that to cling to the myth of fairness is to stay idle while resenting others who prosper. This insight is echoed by modern behavioral economics. Resentment and comparison consume cognitive bandwidth, leaving less mental energy for productive effort. In other words, blaming the system not only fails to change it, but also weakens the very individual who blames. Responsibility and delayed gratification. Accepting responsibility also means acknowledging the link between today's actions and tomorrow's consequences. This is the essence of maturity. A child eats all the candy today and suffers tomorrow. An adult delays gratification, plants seeds, and waits for harvest. Stanford's famous marshmallow experiment revealed that children who could delay gratification for a larger reward later grew into adults with better life outcomes, higher incomes, stronger relationships, better health. Responsibility is the ability to connect the dots between present discipline and future prosperity. Spiritual responsibility beyond money. On a deeper level, personal responsibility is not just financial or practical, but spiritual. It asks, what kind of human being will you become? Money magnifies character. An irresponsible person who gains wealth will squander it, harm others, or enslave themselves to consumption. A responsible person uses wealth as a tool to care for family, to expand freedom, to contribute to society. Thus, personal responsibility is not just the foundation of prosperity, but the foundation of a meaningful life. Without it, even great fortune collapses into emptiness. With it, even modest wealth becomes a source of dignity and joy. Responsibility in practice. To live responsibly is to ask hard questions. What am I avoiding that I know I must face? In what ways am I blaming circumstances instead of owning my choices? What daily habits align with the vision I claim to have? Practical responsibility shows itself in small, repeated actions. Creating a budget, setting aside savings before spending, investing in knowledge, treating time as a finite resource, choosing health over indulgence, repairing mistakes rather than excusing them. Prosperity is not built in one grand gesture, but in 1,000 responsible choices. Conclusion. The gardener's wisdom. The wealthy gardener's wisdom is simple yet profound. No one else will cultivate your field. Neighbors may help, luck may visit, storms may come, but in the end, the field is yours. If you do not sow, you cannot reap. If you do not take responsibility, you surrender your future. Personal responsibility is the great divide. On one side are those who wait for life to change. On the other are those who change themselves to alter life. It is the soil from which every other lesson of prosperity grows. Without it, no wealth endures. With it, even adversity can be turned into abundance. The power of habits and discipline. When we observe the arc of human life, one truth becomes uncomfortably clear. Success or failure rarely happens overnight. Great achievements are not lightning bolts that strike in a moment of inspiration, but rather the accumulated weight of countless small decisions. Similarly, most failures are not sudden catastrophes, but the inevitable consequence of subtle neglects repeated over time. In this sense, our lives are nothing more than the sum of our habits, and our freedom or bondage is written in the language of discipline. This chapter is not about quick victories. It is about the unseen machinery behind every prosperous life, the power of habits, and the discipline that sustains them. To understand wealth, happiness, or even inner peace, one must understand this mechanism. For if character is destiny, then habits are the architecture of character. The psychology of habit formation. From a psychological standpoint, habits are mental shortcuts, automatic behaviors stored in the unconscious to save energy. The brain, always seeking efficiency, turns repeated actions into neural patterns. Each time we act, a pathway strengthens. Each time we repeat, the pathway deepens. Over time, the choice becomes less about willpower and more about conditioned response. The philosopher William James once noted that our entire existence is but a mass of habits. What he meant was profound. Human beings are creatures of routine, whether they recognize it or not. From the way we brush our teeth, to how we respond to stress, to whether we choose to save or spend money, our daily rituals shape us more than our conscious intentions. In this light, success is less about wanting and more about training. A person may desire wealth, health, or wisdom, but desire without habit is like a seed thrown on concrete. It cannot take root. Only when desire translates into repeated disciplined action does it grow into lasting change. Discipline as the gatekeeper of freedom. At first glance, discipline may appear as the enemy of freedom. After all, who enjoys restrictions? Who wants to be told to wake up early, save instead of spend, study when entertainment beckons, or work when rest feels tempting? Yet paradoxically, discipline is the only path to true freedom. Consider money. The individual who spends impulsively may feel free in the moment, indulging every whim. But soon the bills arrive, debt mounts, and the supposed freedom collapses into servitude. Servitude to creditors, servitude to wages, servitude to anxiety. In contrast, the disciplined saver or investor may forgo short-term pleasure, but gains the long-term freedom to live without financial chains. This paradox is universal. The body undisciplined in diet and exercise becomes enslaved by illness. The mind undisciplined in study becomes enslaved by ignorance. The spirit undisciplined in values becomes enslaved by confusion. Discipline, then, is not the enemy of freedom. It is its very foundation. Habits as the silent builders of destiny. If discipline is the force that maintains order, habits are the silent architects shaping who we become. Every day, whether we notice or not, we lay bricks on the wall of our future. Some bricks are solid, acts of diligence, integrity, or learning. Others are weak, moments of indulgence, procrastination, or dishonesty. Over years, the wall either stands firm or collapses, not because of one event, but because of the pattern. Take wealth as an example. Rarely does fortune arrive as a sudden windfall. Even when it does, such as through lottery winnings, it vanishes without the habits of financial discipline to preserve it. The wealthy gardener in Soforic's parable reminds us that riches are cultivated. They are the natural harvest of small, consistent acts. Saving, investing, learning, adjusting. Like watering plants daily, these habits may seem insignificant in isolation, but they are transformative in accumulation. The neuroscience of repetition. Modern neuroscience confirms what sages have long intuited. Repetition rewires the brain. The phrase, neurons that fire together wire together, describes how habits carve permanent grooves in our neural networks. Discipline, therefore, is less about heroic one-time efforts and more about persistent repetition until action becomes automatic. When a person begins a new habit, say, rising early to study or investing a portion of income, resistance is inevitable. The brain protests because it prefers old pathways, but each repetition weakens the resistance and strengthens the new circuit. Eventually, the act requires no effort. It has become second nature. This insight carries a liberating truth. Anyone can change. No one is doomed by past habits. The gardener who once neglected his soil can begin planting anew. Over time, with persistence, the barren ground can bloom. Discipline and the economy of time. One of the most overlooked aspects of discipline is its relationship to time. Time is the universal currency, irreplaceable, finite, and equally distributed. How we use it determines whether we cultivate prosperity or squander potential. Habits are time's multipliers. A disciplined student who studies 1 hour a day may seem ordinary, but over years, the accumulated hours make her extraordinary. A disciplined entrepreneur who dedicates daily time to his craft eventually masters his field. Conversely, the one who wastes time in distractions may not feel the cost today, but in the long run, poverty of skill, opportunity, and spirit becomes inevitable. Time rewards those who respect it. Habits ensure that respect is not left to chance, but woven into the very fabric of daily living. The moral dimension of habits. Habits and discipline are not merely mechanical. They carry moral weight. For instance, honesty is a habit, generosity is a habit, perseverance is a habit. These qualities, repeated and lived daily, form the moral character that others trust and that we ourselves rely upon in times of trial. Prosperity without moral discipline is hollow. History is littered with examples of individuals who gained wealth through cunning or chance, but lost it all due to undisciplined appetites, greed, pride, addiction. In contrast, those who cultivate moral habits build wealth that is not only material, but also relational and spiritual. The resistance to discipline. Of course, it is easy to preach discipline, but harder to practice it. Human psychology resists discomfort. We are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, to choose immediate gratification over long-term reward. This tendency, known as present bias, explains why diets fail, why money is squandered, why resolutions evaporate. Yet recognizing this resistance is the first step to overcoming it. The disciplined individual does not pretend that temptation vanishes. Instead, he anticipates it and builds systems to resist it. He sets structures, routines, and accountability mechanisms. He understands that willpower alone is fragile, but habit, once formed, is self-sustaining. The garden metaphor revisited. The image of the garden is perhaps the most fitting metaphor for habits and discipline. A garden requires daily care, watering, pruning, protecting from weeds. Neglect for even a short period leads to decline. Similarly, the discipline of good habits must be continual. We cannot store discipline the way we store money. It is lived each day or lost. Moreover, a garden teaches patience. Seeds do not sprout overnight. The disciplined gardener works faithfully without immediate reward, trusting the process. In the same way, the habits of saving, learning, exercising, or practicing a craft often feel unrewarding in the moment. Yet, given time, they yield a harvest that seems miraculous to outsiders, though the disciplined gardener knows it was inevitable. The existential perspective. Becoming through doing philosophically, habits and discipline touch on the nature of existence itself. Existential thinkers argue that we are not static beings, but beings in becoming. We define ourselves not by intentions, but by actions. Each habit is therefore an act of self-definition. If I choose daily to read, I become a thinker. If I choose daily to exercise, I become an athlete. If I choose daily to save and invest, I become financially free. Conversely, if I choose daily to waste time or indulge harmful appetites, I become their victim. Freedom, then, is not the absence of discipline, but the mastery of it. To live without discipline is to drift aimlessly. To live with it is to steer toward chosen horizons. Building a legacy through habits. Finally, habits and discipline extend beyond the individual. They ripple into families, communities, and generations. A father who models discipline teaches his children the silent language of self-mastery. A leader who practices integrity sets a standard for those who follow. The harvest of habits is not only personal wealth, but also collective prosperity. The wealthy gardener does not merely enrich himself. He enriches those around him by showing what is possible when life is lived with disciplined intention. His legacy is not money alone, but the wisdom that money, like crops, is cultivated. Conclusion: the hidden power that shapes our lives. When stripped to its essence, life is not determined by luck, intelligence, or even opportunity, as much as by habits and discipline. These are the invisible threads weaving the fabric of destiny. They are the quiet forces deciding whether we live enslaved by circumstance or free by design. The power of habits is that they compound. The power of discipline is that it makes the compounding inevitable. Together, they form the twin pillars upon which every enduring success rests. And so the question each of us must ask is simple yet profound. What habits am I building today? What disciplines guard my future harvest? For the soil of life is impartial. It yields not to wishes or excuses, but only to the seeds we plant and the care we give them daily, the value of labor and commitment. There is a paradox in the human search for prosperity. Everyone desires wealth, yet many recoil from the work that produces it. In contemporary culture, shortcuts are glorified, overnight success stories are idolized, and the slow, patient grind of labor is often dismissed as antiquated or unnecessary. But beneath the illusions of quick fortune lies an unshakable truth. Meaningful wealth is inseparable from meaningful work. The soil of prosperity is tilled not by idle wishes, but by hands willing to cultivate, endure, and commit. From a psychological and philosophical perspective, labor is not merely a means to earn. It is a process that shapes the worker. Work sculpts the mind, tests the will, and forges resilience. To treat labor as punishment is to misunderstand its deeper significance. To embrace it, on the other hand, is to align oneself with the natural order of growth: seed, struggle, harvest. This is why every enduring philosophy of success, whether Eastern or Western, centers around the dignity of work. It is not toil that diminishes us, but the avoidance of toil that erodes our strength and weakens our spirit. The question, however, is not simply whether labor is necessary. The deeper question is how one labors and with what degree of commitment. Work without engagement becomes drudgery. Commitment without labor becomes mere fantasy. True prosperity arises when effort and devotion intertwine, when one pours not just hours but intention into the task at hand. The wealthy gardener does not resent the seasons of planting and pruning. He understands that his harvest depends on fidelity to the process. Likewise, the individual seeking prosperity must approach not as a burden, but as an investment in the future self. Psychologically, the value of labor can be understood as an antidote to passivity. Passive living breeds helplessness. Active labor restores agency. In committing oneself to work, one reclaims authorship over life. Even the most modest tasks, when performed with care and purpose, become affirmations of one's power to shape reality. Consider the difference between a person who passively waits for opportunity and one who actively labors to create it. The first grows bitter in waiting, the second grows stronger in striving. Work, therefore, is not simply about results. It is about becoming the kind of person capable of sustaining results. Commitment deepens this transformation. Labor without commitment is like planting seeds in barren soil, effort wasted without persistence. Commitment gives continuity to action, carrying us through the monotony and obstacles that inevitably arise. Without it, we abandon projects at the first sign of difficulty. With it, we persist until the harvest. Philosophically, commitment is the bridge between vision and reality. To see a vision is one thing. To hold it steadily through seasons of labor, sacrifice, and uncertainty is what brings it into being. Modern psychology affirms what ancient wisdom already knew. Sustained commitment to meaningful labor cultivates fulfillment. The state of flow, where time disappears and effort becomes its own reward, arises when we give ourselves fully to work. But flow is not gifted to the idle. It visits those who immerse themselves in the discipline of doing. Fulfillment, then, is not found in escaping labor, but in discovering purpose within it. The person who despises work will always chase freedom without ever finding it. The person who embraces labor with commitment finds that freedom emerges naturally as the fruit of responsibility well shouldered. There is also an ethical dimension to labor and commitment. A society cannot thrive if its members reject the dignity of work. Communities flourish when individuals labor not only for personal gain, but also as contributors to the larger good. Work builds structures, sustains families, advances knowledge, and nurtures culture. To withdraw from labor is to withdraw from the shared project of civilization. Thus, commitment is not merely personal, it is also social. Each act of committed labor strengthens the fabric of trust upon which prosperity depends. Yet, we must confront a danger. Not all labor is equal. Some work depletes rather than uplifts, especially when performed without meaning or alignment with values. Here, the philosophical task is to discern between necessary struggle and meaningless toil. Labor gains value when it is linked to growth, contribution, or purpose. Without these, commitment can deteriorate into bondage. The wealthy gardener metaphor reminds us that not all soil yields harvests. Wisdom lies in choosing where to plant one's labor. In this sense, prosperity is not a product of labor alone, but of labor invested wisely. A farmer may toil endlessly on barren land and never prosper. Another, who chooses fertile ground, reaps abundance with the same effort. Similarly, in life, commitment must be paired with discernment. Blind devotion to the wrong path leads to exhaustion, while thoughtful commitment to the right work yields compounding returns. Thus, the philosophy of labor is not about glorifying endless busyness. It is about purposeful, directed effort. On the psychological level, meaningful labor also addresses the human need for significance. A life devoid of effort may appear comfortable, but often collapses into boredom, emptiness, and even despair. In contrast, a life of committed work, even if difficult, offers structure, growth, and a sense of contribution. This paradox explains why many who retire into idleness find themselves yearning for engagement again. Work is not merely a financial transaction, it is a spiritual necessity. Commitment transforms it from duty into destiny. Consider the metaphor of the gardener tending his crops. Each day he waters, weeds, and prunes, often without immediate visible results. To an outsider, it may look monotonous, even pointless. Yet the gardener knows that unseen growth is happening beneath the soil. So it is with our labor. Commitment sustains us through the invisibility of progress, through the long nights when results seem absent. Those who quit too soon never see the bloom of their efforts. Those who persist eventually stand in the abundance of harvest. Philosophically, this process reveals a profound truth. Labor and commitment are not external burdens imposed on us. They are internal disciplines that liberate us. They free us from dependence on luck, from the tyranny of chance, and from the anxiety of uncertainty. To commit to work is to commit to self-reliance. It is to declare, I will not passively await a harvest from another's field. I will till my own soil until it yields. In this declaration lies both dignity and freedom. The modern world, with its obsession for convenience and instant gratification, often obscures this truth. We are seduced by promises of quick wealth, automation, and effortless success. Yet these illusions leave us spiritually bankrupt, for they strip away the very struggle that gives life depth. Labor, in its essence, is not suffering. It is the rhythm of growth. Commitment, in turn, is the melody that carries that rhythm forward. Together, they compose the music of prosperity, a tune sung not by the idle, but by those willing to engage fully with existence. Thus, to embrace labor and commitment is to embrace life itself. It is to accept that growth requires exertion, that freedom demands responsibility, and that prosperity is less a destination than a harvest earned through seasons of patient work. The wealthy gardener does not ask when the harvest will come. He trusts that it will, so long as he remains faithful to the process. In our own lives, we must do the same. Labor diligently, commit steadfastly, and let time transform effort into abundance. In conclusion, the value of labor and commitment cannot be overstated. They are not merely tools for material success, but pathways to psychological strength, philosophical depth, and spiritual fulfillment. To work with purpose and to remain committed despite obstacles is to cultivate the richest garden of all, the garden of character. And from that soil, wealth of every kind, financial, emotional, ethical, will inevitably bloom. Knowledge and lifelong learning, the unseen wealth of the mind. We live in an age where material wealth often takes the spotlight, and yet beneath the glitter of possessions lies a quieter, more enduring form of prosperity: knowledge. Unlike money, which can be lost in a single bad investment or health, which can decline through no fault of our own, knowledge is the one wealth that not only stays with us, but multiplies when shared. To understand the true meaning of prosperity, one must look beyond numbers in a bank account and instead focus on the mind's capacity to learn, adapt, and grow. For in the grand garden of life, knowledge is the seed that ensures every other harvest: wealth, wisdom, freedom, and fulfillment. The value of knowledge is not limited to career or financial gain. Knowledge is the foundation of self-respect and self-mastery. It teaches us how to think critically, how to question appearances, how to guard against manipulation, and how to see through the illusions that govern much of human behavior. More importantly, it grants us the power to reinvent ourselves when circumstances demand it. A person who has cultivated a habit of learning is never fully defeated, for even in moments of failure, they can extract lessons and use them as fuel for future growth. From a psychological perspective, learning is deeply tied to human dignity. Our species is defined not only by our instincts, but by our ability to shape reality through thought and discovery. When a person chooses ignorance, whether by neglect or by comfort, they surrender this defining human trait. It is not wealth or poverty that marks the decline of a human life. It is stagnation, the refusal to grow. To live without learning is to live half asleep, drifting through existence without realizing the richness of what it means to be human. Philosophically, lifelong learning can be seen as a dialogue with time itself. Each day offers new information, new perspectives, and new truths waiting to be discovered. The question is whether we approach these moments with an open mind or with the arrogance of believing we already know enough. Knowledge is inexhaustible. No individual can ever claim mastery of the vast complexities of existence. Yet, the pursuit of learning, though endless, is not futile. It is the pursuit that refines us, humbles us, and keeps us connected to the eternal unfolding of life. In the practical realm of wealth building, knowledge serves as both compass and shield. A person who understands the principles of money, the patterns of markets, or the psychology of human decision-making is far less likely to fall prey to financial illusions. They are not easily swayed by quick schemes or hollow promises because their mind has been trained to distinguish between surface glitter and genuine value. As John Soforic emphasizes in The Wealthy Gardener, true prosperity comes not from luck or shortcuts, but from understanding. Understanding of oneself, of others, and of the world's hidden mechanics. However, the discipline of lifelong learning requires humility. It demands we acknowledge what we do not know and remain willing to be students forever. This humility is paradoxically a form of strength. It keeps us from becoming rigid, from clinging to outdated assumptions, and from letting pride block our growth. Many lives are wasted because people confuse temporary knowledge with eternal truth. They stop reading, stop questioning, and stop evolving, believing their early successes guarantee their future. Yet time has a way of punishing arrogance. The world changes, industries rise and fall, technologies disrupt old ways of living. Only the flexible learner survives. Psychologically, habits of learning transform the very architecture of the brain. Neuroscience reveals that continued learning strengthens neural pathways, increases cognitive resilience, and even delays decline in old age. In other words, to keep learning is to remain young in spirit and in mind, regardless of chronological years. The habit of learning does not just make us wealthier in wisdom, it prolongs the vitality of our consciousness itself. At a deeper level, knowledge is inseparable from meaning. A life devoid of learning is not merely ignorant, it is spiritually malnourished. To study philosophy is to confront the great questions of existence. To study science is to glimpse the hidden order of the universe. To study history is to witness the patterns of human triumph and folly. Each pursuit feeds the soul in a unique way, anchoring us in the recognition that our individual story is part of a much greater tapestry. But how does one cultivate this form of wealth? The answer lies in intentional practice. Reading daily, reflecting on experience, engaging in dialogue with diverse perspectives, and approaching each challenge as a classroom. Every difficulty becomes a teacher. Every setback, a textbook. This mindset transforms ordinary life into an extraordinary university where lessons are everywhere. The danger, of course, is mistaking information for knowledge. In our digital age, we are flooded with endless data. Yet much of it is shallow, distracting, and even misleading. Knowledge is not simply the accumulation of facts, it is the integration of truth into wisdom, the ability to discern what matters and apply it with discernment. To be truly wealthy in knowledge is not to know everything, but to know what is worth knowing. When seen in this light, lifelong learning is more than a strategy for financial success. It is a philosophy of living. It affirms that the human spirit is never finished, that every stage of life offers new horizons to explore. It teaches us to approach the unknown not with fear, but with curiosity, not with resignation, but with wonder. In the end, the wealth of the mind is the truest wealth we can ever possess. Money can vanish, health can waver, relationships can shift, but the knowledge we carry within us, our ability to learn, adapt, and rise again, remains a constant source of strength. The wealthy gardener understands this truth. To plant seeds of knowledge daily is to ensure a harvest of resilience, wisdom, and freedom that no misfortune can ever fully destroy. Thus, lifelong learning is not optional for those who seek prosperity of the highest order. It is the very soil in which all other forms of abundance grow. Financial freedom, the ultimate destination. There comes a moment in every human journey when the meaning of money must be questioned. Why do we seek it? What is the purpose behind years of labor, saving, investing, and sacrifice? Without this deeper inquiry, financial pursuits risk becoming an endless treadmill where individuals work tirelessly but never arrive anywhere meaningful. The concept of financial freedom, when understood not as mere abundance of currency, but as the ability to live on one's own terms, is the ultimate destination of the path that the wealthy gardener illuminates. Financial freedom is not about amassing piles of wealth in isolation, nor is it about extravagant lifestyles meant to impress others. Instead, it is the art of aligning resources with values, ensuring that money becomes a servant to life rather than its master. This final stage in the gardener's parable is not simply a matter of numbers. It is a psychological liberation, a philosophical emancipation, and a deeply human longing for autonomy. To explore financial freedom as the culmination of prosperity is to enter the most profound intersection of economics, psychology, and the philosophy of existence. Freedom as the core human desire. From a philosophical perspective, freedom has always stood as one of the highest aspirations of human life. Thinkers from Aristotle to Jean-Paul Sartre have grappled with the paradox of human liberty. While circumstances constrain us, within those limits we still possess the agency to choose. In financial life, the same paradox manifests. Many individuals live in societies of abundance, yet feel trapped in invisible prisons. Mortgages, consumer debt, jobs that drain the spirit. They are materially surrounded, but existentially confined. Financial freedom offers a resolution to this paradox. It is the point where money no longer dictates every choice, where time, the most finite currency, is reclaimed for what matters most. When individuals achieve it, they are no longer bound to trade hours for wages under compulsion. They choose whether to work, create, or rest. In this sense, money ceases to be an end in itself and becomes the foundation of authentic freedom, the illusion of wealth without freedom. It is easy to confuse wealth with freedom, but history and psychology reveal countless examples of affluent individuals who remain deeply unfree. The executive chained to a 70-hour workweek, the celebrity terrified of losing fame, the entrepreneur addicted to expansion. These figures may possess fortune, but their lives are not their own. Financial abundance without freedom is merely another form of bondage, gilded yet suffocating. The gardener's wisdom reminds us, true financial success is measured not by the size of the bank account, but by the degree of sovereignty one holds over time, energy, and choices. The individual who earns modestly, yet lives debt-free with full command over their days, may be freer than the millionaire ensnared by obligations, social expectations, and restless ambition. Psychological dimensions of financial freedom. From a psychological standpoint, financial freedom represents the crossing of a threshold from survival mode to self-actualization. Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs places physiological and safety requirements at the base. Until these are secured, human beings remain preoccupied with meeting immediate necessities. Money, therefore, functions as the guarantor of basic survival. However, when resources surpass survival needs, a deeper transformation can occur. Freed from financial anxiety, individuals can turn their attention to growth, creativity, contribution, and meaning. Here, financial freedom is less about accumulation and more about liberation from fear. Psychologically, the absence of financial stress creates mental clarity, emotional balance, and the courage to pursue passions without the shadow of scarcity. It is telling that many who reach financial independence often redirect their energies toward teaching, philanthropy, or artistic endeavors. They shift from a mindset of having to into one of choosing to. This freedom to choose how to spend time, what projects to undertake, which relationships to nurture, is the psychological essence of prosperity. Discipline and the road to freedom. Yet freedom is not granted, it is cultivated. The paradox of financial freedom is that it is achieved only through discipline, sacrifice, and delayed gratification, the very qualities that seem restrictive in the short term. Just as a gardener must tend soil, prune branches, and wait patiently for harvest, so must individuals practice restraint, live below their means, and commit to wise investments. In this sense, freedom is the fruit of structure. The discipline of consistent saving, the habit of avoiding consumer debt, the persistence of learning and adapting, all of these form the invisible scaffolding upon which freedom is built. Without them, wealth leaks away and autonomy remains an illusion. The gardener's metaphor becomes clear. To enjoy the liberty of harvest, one must first endure the rigor of cultivation. The philosophy of enough. One of the most profound aspects of financial freedom lies not in the abundance of resources, but in the wisdom to know what is enough. Consumer culture constantly whispers that freedom is found in more possessions, more upgrades, more status. Yet psychological research consistently demonstrates that beyond a certain point, additional wealth contributes little to lasting happiness. True freedom requires the philosophical maturity to recognize sufficiency. It is the ability to say, my needs are met, my future is secure, and my life is aligned with my values. Without this inner clarity, even vast fortunes cannot satisfy. The man who always needs more is forever a slave, while the one who knows contentment can walk freely with far less. Thus, financial freedom is both an external condition and an internal orientation toward life. Financial freedom as a legacy. Finally, financial freedom carries implications beyond the individual. For parents, it provides the opportunity to model responsibility and leave an inheritance not just of money, but of wisdom and stability. For communities, financially free individuals become less dependent, more generous, and more capable of supporting collective well-being. At its highest level, financial freedom is not selfish retreat, but empowered participation in the betterment of others. The wealthy gardener, in sharing his lessons with his son, embodies this truth. His wealth is not hoarded, nor is it flaunted. It is translated into freedom to teach, to guide, and to ensure that the next generation inherits not only capital, but also the principles required to sustain it. Conclusion: the harvest of a life well cultivated. In the end, financial freedom is not the end of the story, but the natural harvest of a life lived with vision, responsibility, discipline, labor, and continual learning. It represents the point where external wealth and internal wisdom converge. More than a bank balance, it is the quiet confidence of knowing that one's time, choices, and future are one's own. The gardener's parable urges us to see financial freedom not as an elusive dream, but as the ultimate fruit of intentional living. It is the reward for those who sow with diligence, water with patience, and guard against weeds of distraction and waste. To arrive at this destination is to stand in one's garden at sunset, surveying not only the prosperity of the soil, but the freedom of the soul, the spirit of giving and legacy. In the final analysis of wealth, beyond the columns of numbers, beyond the vaults of accumulation, lies a truth that is both humbling and liberating. We do not truly own anything. We are custodians, temporary stewards of resources, influence, and opportunity. What matters is not the size of what we hold, but the imprint of what we release. The wealthy gardener closes its parable with this recognition: that a life devoted only to keeping eventually collapses under the weight of its own selfishness, while a life that learns to give flourishes long after the giver is gone. The spirit of giving, in this sense, is not charity in its shallow form. It is not the occasional donation made for appearance or the token act of generosity performed for recognition. It is the conscious choice to align wealth with meaning, to turn personal prosperity into shared prosperity. Giving here is not a subtraction from one's fortune, but the multiplication of its impact. Just as the gardener sows seeds knowing he will not harvest them all, so too does the wise individual release resources knowing that the true harvest belongs to the community, to the future, and to the unseen continuities of life. Philosophically, the spirit of giving is inseparable from the concept of legacy. Legacy is the echo of our existence, the resonance that continues after the body has returned to dust. The question that haunts every conscious mind is, when I am gone, what remains? For some, the answer is a forgotten trail of consumer indulgences. For others, it is a chain of relationships enriched, lives uplifted, and pathways cleared for those who follow. Legacy is not an accidental byproduct. It is the culmination of intention. It reflects whether one lived merely to extract or to contribute, merely to possess or to plant. From a psychological standpoint, the act of giving reshapes the giver. Neuroscience has shown that generosity activates the brain's reward circuits, producing states of joy and meaning that hoarding can never achieve. But beyond biology, there is a deeper psychological truth. Giving affirms our interconnectedness. It tells the self, you are not isolated. You are part of a larger story. And in that affirmation, the ego loosens its grip. The anxious grasping that so often accompanies wealth fades into a calmer posture of trust. One no longer asks, what if I lose it all? But instead rests in the assurance that what has been shared cannot be lost. It has already been sown into the lives of others. The philosopher Viktor Frankl once wrote that meaning is found not in what we take from life, but in what life demands of us. Wealth, then, is a call to responsibility, not merely to comfort. To hoard without giving is to silence that call. To give is to respond with dignity, acknowledging that prosperity is never meant to terminate in the self. In this sense, giving is not an optional virtue, but the highest use of wealth. Legacy, too, demands reflection. It is not built in grand gestures alone, but in the daily consistency of choices. A father who works diligently not only provides bread for today, but models perseverance for tomorrow. A mother who shares her time and wisdom leaves a legacy deeper than any estate. The wealthy gardener in Soforic's parable embodies this truth. His fields symbolize more than financial abundance. They embody a vision passed on, a set of principles sown into the next generation. Legacy is the silent teaching that outlives the teacher. There is also a paradox within legacy. It requires letting go of control. We cannot dictate how the seeds we plant will grow or in whose hands our wealth will rest when we are gone. The anxiety of permanence often tempts people to clutch tighter, to try to script their legacy with contracts, monuments, or elaborate controls. But the gardener knows better. Seeds are released into soil and entrusted to time, weather, and the hands of others. Legacy is never ownership extended. It is ownership surrendered. Its power lies not in control, but in relinquishment. Here emerges the spiritual dimension. The act of giving and the pursuit of legacy are deeply theological, whether or not one frames them in religious language. To give is to participate in a rhythm as old as creation, the cycle of receiving and releasing, of abundance flowing into abundance. To cling is to interrupt that flow. To give is to rejoin it. Legacy, then, is not an afterthought, but a natural continuation of that rhythm. Just as rivers flow into seas, lives flow into other lives. The gardener waters his plants knowing he may not live to see their shade, yet he trusts in the unfolding design. Critically, the spirit of giving also serves as a counterforce to the corrosive effects of wealth. History offers countless examples of fortunes that became prisons, wealth that corroded relationships, or dynasties that collapsed under their own greed. Generosity disrupts this decay. It purifies wealth by redirecting it beyond the self. A fortune that flows outward renews itself in meaning. A fortune that stagnates inward spoils into misery. In this sense, giving is not only a virtue, but a safeguard, a way of protecting both wealth and the soul of the wealthy. Consider the psychological contrast. A person who defines success solely in terms of accumulation lives in perpetual fear. Fear of loss, fear of insufficiency, fear of irrelevance. A person who defines success in terms of contribution, however, is liberated from this fear. Even if wealth diminishes, their meaning does not. Even if fortunes collapse, their legacy endures. For them, wealth is not a fortress, but a river, not a wall, but a bridge. What then does it mean in practical terms to embrace the spirit of giving and legacy? It means shifting perspective from ownership to stewardship. It means asking, what good can flow through me, rather than what more can I claim for myself? It means measuring wealth not only in assets, but in lives touched. And it means recognizing that the truest proof of prosperity is not how much we can consume, but how much we can contribute without fear. The Wealthy Gardener's closing message is therefore not about wealth at all. It is about life, about the art of sowing in fields we may never walk, about releasing what we cannot keep in order to gain what we cannot lose. Legacy is not measured in inheritance statements, but in the quiet gratitude of those who were nourished by our existence. Giving is not weakness, but the ultimate exercise of strength, the strength to trust that what we have sown will bear fruit beyond us. In the end, the gardener's wisdom is simple yet profound. Plant generously, release freely, and trust the harvest to time. Wealth may make you powerful in the present, but only giving and legacy will carry your name into the future. To live with this spirit is to ensure that prosperity does not die with you, but becomes a seedbed for generations to come. Thank you so much for being here and for joining me on this journey with Books That Change You, a channel dedicated to exploring books that have the power to transform the way we think, live, and pursue success, happiness, and true wealth. Every book we share is more than just words on a page. It is a seed planted in the mind, a seed of wisdom, growth, and possibility. These books are companions and guides that help us unlock our potential and walk toward a life of greater meaning and fulfillment. If you find this content valuable and want to continue learning, reflecting, and growing with us, please make sure to subscribe to Books That Change You. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss an insight that could shift your perspective and enrich your life. Once again, I want to express my deepest gratitude to you, our listener, supporter, and fellow traveler on this journey of lifelong learning. You are the reason this channel exists and the inspiration for everything we do. Let's build together a community of readers, seekers, and changemakers. People who dare to learn, to grow, and to live more brilliantly.